All right, all right, all right. I think I'm live and by myself today. Hello, guys. My name is Dan Duran, and I'm the host of the Tech Lounge. Here we discuss topics related to business entrepreneurship and cybersecurity. And today I am by myself. Yes. How you guys doing? So happy Canada Day for everybody. And if you're out there, just make sure you send your shout outs. I'm going to try to work my magic here on Restream as much as I can today. But today is going to be a very special day because I'm going to show you how to secure your website. And this is going to be like a tutorial, right? It's going to be very technical. We're going to go through some really cool stuff. If you're out there, Andrew Somerton, big shout out to my co-host. I know you're there listening. He just had an operation and now he is at home resting. Everything is really good, and he's having fun at home. I also have Changiz. So hello, Changiz. Happy Canada Day, Changiz. I hope you're doing fantastic. And yes, I'm by myself today. My co-host extraordinaire is not here. I have Tamara on the line too. She says, Hiya, happy Canada Day. So if you're out there and you're watching me, make sure that you tune in. All right. So today is going to be very good, right? It's going to be a bit technical. So, and if I goof up, don't mind me because I'm by myself. Gladstone is not here either. He's actually on vacation. So I have Sonia on the line too. She says, "Hey, thank you for participating, Sonia. Hello. All right. So this is what we're going to talk about today. So how to secure your website, right? And there are many things, and I want to take it right from the beginning, right from the start, from the very basic, securing your domain. How to secure your domain. Then we're going to talk about Cloudflare, fantastic web application firewall and content delivery network, so CDN. Then we're going to go into a little bit about cPanel, how to secure a cPanel. We're going to talk about WordPress, then backups, and then headers, right? So we are going to talk about the very beginning, from the very beginning, A all the way to Z in terms of securing your website. All right, sounds good. Who else is there? Okay, so I have Elizabeth. She says, "Hi Dan, can't wait to hear the show." Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate. Sonia says, "Happy Canada Day. Happy Canada Day to you too. Today is July 1st. It's Canada Day, so yeah, celebrating. Everybody is home, right? And some of us are here talking to you. All right, perfect. So let's get on with the show, right? So the first thing that we're going to talk about is the domain. How to secure your domain, right? So you have a domain that you purchased, and as you can see here, I have a domain here on GoDaddy, right? The first things that you need to do on your domain are as follows, right? So you bought your domain, right? And now you want to make sure that nobody steals your domain, right? And it stays protected at all times. You need to do a few things in here. The first one is going to be your WHOIS, right? You want to make sure that your WHOIS is private, right? It's private information. So for example, this is of course our business address and our business phone number and all of that. If I click here and edit, or not edit, actually the WHOIS right here, WHOIS, this is the information that the public is going to see on your domain, right? They're going to see the domains by proxy. They're going to see this address, Arizona, which is the GoDaddy information, or any other WHOIS information, or any. They're not going to see the company information, your phone number, and all of that. So you want to make sure that you turn on the WHOIS privacy on your hosting or your domain provider. That's the first thing that you got to do. You want to make sure that you turn that on, right? And also this, for example, the display of your email address, right? So you want to make sure that your actual email address is not displayed. So you have this on, the email or privacy email forwarding. So those are the first things that you need to do on your WHOIS, on your domain. The second thing that you got to do is the domain lock. I mean, what you want to do is basically prevent unauthorized changes to your domain, right? So when somebody requests migrating your domain from one account to another, you want to make sure that does not, never, ever happens, or else you're going to lose your domain, right? So we don't want you to lose your domain. You have to turn on the domain lock. In this case, they have other, and I know they, GoDaddy, they want to upsell on other things. So for example, they have this a premium thing for hijacking and accidental loss of domains. I don't bother with that. These are usually on by themselves automatically. You can turn them on off as you like. And the other thing is, like, you want to make sure that you auto renew your domain, right? So every year you get the bill, $20, $30 per year, whatever it is, and it gets paid automatically. You don't want to have the auto renew off, because then you might lose the domain, right? So there is an expiration. I think it's 60 days of expiration when anybody can grab your domain and take it, right? From here, what do we do from here? So the next step is you want to set up Cloudflare. Now Cloudflare is extremely useful, and I see who else is in the line. I see Sean. Hey, Sean. He says, hello, Dan. Hello, Sean Davidson. I hope you're doing fantastic, man, and enjoy Canada Day. Thank you so much for being present at the show. And as you can see, I'm by myself showing you the ropes on how to secure a website. So hi, Sean. I hope you're doing great. All right. So if you have comments, if you have questions or anything, just put them on the chat, and I'm going to be able to display it on the chat as much as I can, right? Because as you can see, I'm by myself here. So anyway, what we need to do is set up Cloudflare. And Cloudflare is extremely helpful. It's very helpful. So how do you do that? So let's talk about a little bit about Cloudflare before we set it up in here. Cloudflare is what's called a CDN. Okay, so let me just shut this off so you can actually see me. There you go. So what is Cloudflare? Cloudflare is a CDN, a content delivery network, right? So let's say you have your hosting environment in Canada, in Ontario, right? So somebody from the States, let's say Atlanta or California or Washington State, trying to connect to your website from there, it's going to take a long time to do that because your server is here in Ontario, right? What you want to do is you want to set up a CDN, or a content delivery network. And a content delivery network, what it does is basically it places servers all around the globe, not just in the States and Canada, all around the globe. I'm talking about Singapore, I'm talking about Australia, anywhere in the world, they have servers that replicate your website. So if I'm in Sydney, Australia, and I go to your site, it's going to be very fast as if I was here in Ontario. So that's a CDN. You want to have that on your website. Absolutely 100%. The other thing that you want to have is what's called WAF, or a web application firewall. And what a web application firewall does is stops any attacks from entering into your website, into your server. In the way Cloudflare does it is called a reverse proxy. So let's talk about what a reverse proxy is. And I think I do have here information about the, let me see, proxy. Oh, I had everything set up in here, and now it is completely gone. Yeah, so a reverse proxy is basically a server that states right after the server. You have your server, then you have another server, and what it does is it proxies your IP address. So every server, every computer in this world has an IP address. I have an IP address. You have an IP address when you go into your computer. Every server in the world has an IP address. So that's called the origin IP address. And you want to protect that when you're talking about servers. The way you protect that is using a proxy server. And the proxy server basically takes that IP addresses, changes that IP address into another IP address, and then displays that IP address to the world, right? So that's basically a proxy, a proxy, and the way Cloudflare works. So Cloudflare is a very, very good proxy server. So let me just go to the Cloudflare website and then going to share my screen here. And Elizabeth says, this is Andrew Summerton. I'm having technical difficulties on my phone. Oh, no. And then Elizabeth says, great show, Dan. Elizabeth or Andrew. Hello, Andrew. I hope you're doing well, buddy. We miss you. Okay, so let me see you next week. All right, perfect. We will. So this is Cloudflare, right? So it's a global network built for the cloud. That's what they say. It secures websites, APIs, internet applications, corporate applications, all of that. And the funny thing about this is that most of the functionality that you can set up on Cloudflare is absolutely free, 100% free. You can sign up, get your account, and you have a firewall for your website. So amazing. Now, if you want to have more, more features and stuff like that, you pay only $20 per month, which I mean, that's peanuts for a company, right? So you can afford $20 per month on this, and it's going to set up your domain and all of that. Yeah, so that's basically Cloudflare. The other thing that I need to talk about is your actual server, right? So your web server. There's different types of web servers. So if I go to InMotion, this is InMotion, for example, and then we have, for example, HostGators. These are kind of like the cheap end of cloud servers and stuff like that, right? You see here, this says share hosting, right? So share host. Let's talk about share hosting, VPS, and dedicated hosting. Okay, so dedicated, you can see here, dedicated, and then VPS, right? So imagine you are renting a room at a house. That's kind of like the equivalent of share hosting. You're renting a computer, right? So with a whole bunch of other companies, it could be 100 companies, it could be 1,000 companies, and you're just occupying this little room inside of a house, right? That's kind of like the analogy of share hosting. The second one is VPS. VPS is a virtual private server. Okay, that's what it stands for. And basically, what it is imagine you have an apartment, right? You have an apartment inside of an apartment building, right? So you have your building, and you own an apartment inside of a building. So you still have tenants, but now you're separate. You're not just renting a room in a house. You're actually owning an apartment at a building. So this is all virtual, of course. And then you have dedicated. And dedicated is like owning your own house. So it's not an apartment building. It's not a complex. It's your own individual house. You can do whatever you want with it. When you're starting a business, don't get shared hosting. Why? Because there's a lot of companies, a lot of websites that are going to share the same space as you. And some of the websites that are going to be in there are going to be vulnerable. They're going to have problems. They're going to have security issues. And if they go down, if they get hacked, you can get hacked because the server is going to get hacked. So you're going to get hacked, right? Start with VPS. VPS is the best solution because it's not that expensive, but it's inside of a container for you. So it's like having an apartment inside of a building, right? So, and if you go into the pricing for hosting, let's say VPS, starts at $23 a month, very small server, right? And it can go all the way to $59 a month. Now, at Rhino Cybersecurity, we have our own hosting as well. So if you go, let me just go Rhino, and you go look into solutions, and you'll see secure enterprise cloud hosting. Our servers are dedicated, right? Dedicated servers, and you can pay $199 per month for our hosting, and it includes everything. It includes, like the updates to your website, the backups, the security monitoring, includes everything. You don't have to do anything in terms of maintaining your site for $199. That's extremely cheap for the service that's provided, because like to update your site, it takes time. It takes a few hours. So I recommend that if you can afford $199, go with a server like Rhino Cybersecurity. Excellent service. All right, so let's talk. So that's about the what I need to talk about hosting. Don't get share hosting. Get the VPS or get the dedicated hosting like Rhino, right? The second thing is IP addresses is the same thing with IP addresses. Don't get an IP address that is a shared IP address. That's a bad thing because you're sharing the same IP address as other companies. Get a dedicated IP address for your company. Always on the lookout, making sure that you're safe, right? So now let's see who is on the line here. Who do we have in the line? Andrew says, see you all next week. Yes. It looks like it's Elizabeth talking, but it's actually Andrew. And we have a LinkedIn user that says, hi, sorry I'm late. No problem, no problem. So we talked about domains, how to secure a domain, make sure that nobody steals your domain, make sure you're not putting information, your WHOIS, your personal information, like your personal email address or phone number. Now we're talking about Cloudflare and how to set up your Cloudflare account, which is free. Of course, you can do it for free. So this is how you do it. So if you go down the page here, this is my domain, and I'm going to click on Manage DNS. Click on Manage DNS. And you see I have all my records in here. So these are the DNS records. So I have my A record, which is my actual website. I have C names for www. And then you'll have, like MX records for your email and all of that. I won't worry about that right now. And then at the very bottom, you'll see the name servers. This is what you need to change, the name server. So if I go to, let's say, Cloudflare. Oh, and I found it. I found the information about what a reverse proxy is. And you can see here that you have a whole bunch of computers. So this is, like Julie and Sean and Tamara here with different IP addresses connecting to the internet. So this is the internet. And then this is the reverse proxy. So the server that's in front of my server, right? So this would be like Cloudflare, and it changes the IP address. So at the very end, this user does not have access directly to my server. It has to go through the proxy server. So yeah, I found it. Thank God. All right, perfect. So let's set up let me see here. Okay. So this is the interface for Cloudflare, right? So I'm going to set up a website, right? So I'm going to click on here, and then I'm just going to set up the website. So GetCyber. And these are the plans, right? So as you can see, there's the free plan, the pro plan, and then the business. The business is $200 per month. This is if you're an enterprise or a medium-sized company, you can afford $200 a month. Absolutely recommend the business plan. If not, then just pay $20 a month. It still gives you a lot of features. And if you're just starting, if you're an entrepreneur and you're just building your website, then you can just go for free, right? Once you click on Get Started, it's going to scan your website. So let's give it a couple of minutes. Perfect. So you see how it already set up all your domain, right? And then you just click on Continue, right? Don't worry about that. And then here are the name servers. So what you have to do is just click on this name server. So Brenda.ns Cloudflare, right? And then go back to your DNS. So let's suppose this is getcyber.ca. Doesn't matter. I'm just doing it for demonstration purposes. Click on DNS, manage DNS. And then you have to change the name server here. Enter my own name servers. And then you add that Cloudflare DNS in here. Then this other one here like this. And then you click on Save. Once you click on Save, you're giving authority to Cloudflare to take all of your DNS records and put them through the proxy. That's the important thing, right? So you're not showing to the world your origin servers, your origin DNS information. Everything is Cloudflare. That's what you want to do, right? Once you set this up, then you start working with this. So let me just go into this one over here. Okay, so this is one that I have for danduran.ca. And it's going to give you a lot of information. So let's start working with this. Let me see if I have any questions. Any questions? Let me see. Okay, Changis says the other option is to use Secure Dns for CIRA. Yes, absolutely. You can use a secure DNS. Very good, because that acts also as a redirection for you. So yes, really, really good point, Changiz. You can use secure DNS. I prefer the Cloudflare route because for small sites, it's free, right? For the pro version, it's only $20 per month, and then you get a whole bunch of features that I'm going to show you that are really cool. And we also have Oscar Garrido. So he says, "Hi guys, happy Friday." Well, it's just myself, Oscar. So happy Friday and happy Canada Day, buddy. I hope you're doing fantastic. Thank you so much for joining. All right, so let's see. So this is Cloudflare, right? And it shows you, like the analytics and all this stuff, right? So let's walk um, through Cloudflare. So this is the overview, right? So if you're under attack, for example, you can set up, this mode under attack, and then what it's going to do is it's going to challenge everybody that goes into the website in case you have some sort of let me just turn this off. Medium, there you go. If you're being DDoSed on your server or anything like that, you can put it as under attack, and it's just going to display a landing page, and then people are going to have to click on the CAPTCHA to be able to get in, right? So it's very important. There's a development mode. So if you're working, let's say, with your website, your web developers working, you can set it up as development mode, and it bypasses everything. Then when you click on the analytics, you see how many requests you have, all the caching information for your site. The bandwidth that you're using in this case is very minimal. I mean, nobody goes to my site. It's only 6.69 megabytes for bandwidth, and then 120 for cache. But in big site, and you can see people going from coming to the site from different places. When it's an enterprise, you'll see people coming from everywhere, right? So you see, for example, United States, Germany, Greece, France, Portugal. So these are just the normal stats. You need visitors and stuff like that. Going to the security, then you're going to see how many. Let me just see if I can pull a better site for you so you can see the actual breadth of this tool and bigger numbers. Let me just see. Perfect. There you go. Okay. Yeah. So let's go back to the security, and you're going to see all the threats that have come in through, and then how many have been stopped. So in the last 24 hours for this website, which is Rhino, we've stopped 934 threats, right? So, and you see that mainly the threats come from these countries. So you can see, for example, the United Kingdom, right? And you can see Germany. They're coming from Germany, and then Russia, of course, right? So we have a lot of people coming from other places, even though we don't do business with a lot of these people. They're coming from from those parts of the world, and usually what it does is attacks and scans and all of that stuff, and we want to stop that, right? So these are the top threat countries. You can see United Kingdom 317 requests, Germany 229 requests. So it stops the threats in terms of the scans and the probing on your web server and stuff like that. And it also stops, you have crawlers. Well, it doesn't crawl, it doesn't stop. It stops bad bots and bad crawlers, but not the good ones. So for example, Bing, it allows Bing and Google to pass, same with Facebook and all of that stuff. And then you have performance. So performance is for, like how much bandwidth you're saving, for example. And the content breakdown, like in terms of JS, images, libraries, and things like that, and how people are going in. So these are just the analytics, right? DNS queries, all of that stuff. For all of you, who like analytics, this is the place to go, right? Then you have your servers, right? So let me just show you on the other side here, DNS. So these are all your servers, and what you want to make sure that you have is this little thing. This is everything that's proxy on your servers, right? So when you turn this off, you're telling basically Cloudflare not to filter anything. So you want to make sure that you have as many as these entries set up with the proxy on, and the little cloud is actually orange and not grayed out like that, right? So this is bypassing, and this is passing through Cloudflare. You want to make sure that you have that set up for you for all of the domains, all of everything that is a type A domain, for example, and CNAME. All of that needs to be set up with Cloudflare, or else it's really going to it is not going to help you, because when you're a hacker, you can enumerate every single domain and subdomain from your website, and then you can see their origin IP address. So if a subdomain is pointing to your origin IP address, hackers are going to be able to see that, right? So you want to make sure that you cover that in terms of in terms of the subdomains. All right, so email. This is something new from Cloudflare, so I'm not going to do anything in terms of email. Now let's talk about the encryption, right? So this is for GetCyber. Let's go back to Rhino here. Okay. You want to do a few things with the encryption. So this is your TLS, your SSL, your security certificates. There's a few things that you can do. So first one, off. Do not ever have this off, because it just defeats the purpose, right? Flexible is basically you're only encrypting traffic in the flexible from the browser to Cloudflare, but you're not encrypting from Cloudflare to your origin server, right? So I also do not recommend having the flexible, the flexible mode, right? So what I recommend is either having it in full, right, or in full strict. So the difference between the full and the full and strict is that the full encrypts end to end, but you have to use a self-signed certificate on your hosting, right? So which is perfectly fine. You can create and you can generate at any time. It's absolutely free. You can generate a certificate inside of your cPanel or whatever you're using. It's a self-signed certificate. Or you can use a trusted certificate with a trusted CA or certificate authority, right? So, but you have to pay. You have to pay for that. In certain cases, you do have to pay. I mean, most of the time, some of them, like for example, VeriSign, and they are very expensive. They're like $1,000 per year, right? But there's one free. There's a free one called Let's Encrypt, and Let's Encrypt is really, really good, right? So let me show you. You can get a certificate for free from Let's Encrypt, and then add it to your cPanel or your hosting environment, right? I would not recommend to use a Let's Encrypt if you're not using Cloudflare or another DNS rerouting or proxy or reverse proxy, because sometimes the IDS, the intrusion detection systems, do not like Let's Encrypt just because it's I don't know, it's just free. So if you're going to be going from your origin server right into the world, make sure that you buy a reputable certificate. If you're bypassing or using the proxy server like Cloudflare, then you can use Let's Encrypt, right? Because at the end, when you go, like if I go into Rhino, for example, here, and I click on the little window here, or the little lock, and click on security, then you'll see here that the SSL does not come from Let's Encrypt. It comes from Cloudflare. So this is really good, right? So yeah, so that's what you want to do in terms of. I have a comment from Changiz. He says Secure DNS of Sierra is also free for Sierra members. Yes, I'm a Sierra member too. I didn't know that. I didn't know that if you own a CA domain, so a Canadian domain, so danduran.ca, that's my personal website address, then you can get a free DNS, secure DNS from Sierra. So Sierra, that's a very good point, Changiz. And let me just go into CIRA. CIRA is the Canadian Internet Registry Association or Registration Association. Here it is, right? Every time you buy a .ca domain, it doesn't matter where you are, it asks you to prove citizenship, Canadian citizenship, or that you live in Canada, right? So somebody from UK cannot buy a domain from Canada if they don't live in Canada. That's how the rules are, right? Good point, Cengiz. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions, Cengiz, because I know you're an expert at this too, Cengiz. So I really hope that you provide more details into this. You're helping me out. I'm by myself, so guys, help me out. All right, perfect. Okay, so that is it in terms of the full or strict. And then let's go into the SSL recommender. You want to have this on, right, at all times. And there's a whole bunch of configurations that I'm going to talk about here. So it might get a little technical, so just bear with me. Okay. So of course, here, you want to make sure that you always use HTTPS. Okay. So turn that on, right? Here are your certificates. And that little asterisk here is a wildcard, right? So that means that any subdomain works with this. So it could be dan.rhino.io or andrewsummerton.rhino.io. That's a wildcard. So it's universal, basically. That's what it means, right? You want to make sure that you turn this HTTP strict transport. And what is this? Okay, so if I go to, let's say, HTTPS loader, preloader, there it is. If I enter, let's say, danduran.ca, let's see if it works. Oh, it is. Okay, so let's say GetCyber.org. Oh, it's also set up. If you see it in red, it means that it's not working. So I'm going to put something like I don't know, whatever. Here, let's see. Yeah, so that's in red. It means that your preloader is not on. What it means is that the preloader status or the preloader management is a signal that it gets sent to all the browsers. So Mozilla, Firefox, Chrome, Chromium, Edge, Safari, all of the browsers, telling them that this site it has SSL certificate on, right? So that way hackers cannot spoof the SSL certificate when they try to use their own proxies and stuff like that. It's just a very good way to have this preloader on, right? So that's how you do it in here, right? So you can do it right on. You can do it right on Cloudflare. You click in here. Next, set it all up in here for 12 months and then save. Right. So yeah, that's the preloader, right? Okay. Let's go into the client certificate. And then origin server. Okay, so you want to make sure that the authenticated origin pools, right? So this is basically presenting the TLS client certificate for authentication from your origin server. So make sure that you click that on, right? If you get into security, right? So this is the security side of things, right? So you can see all the IP addresses that are blocked, the user agents that are blocked, countries, and all of that stuff, right? You can see here, for example, July 1st, today, blocked from Germany, Vietnam, United Kingdom, India, France, Spain, right? So all the IPs that are trying to or attempting to go into the site, block, right? So the bad stuff, right? Then what you want to do is let's set up here a rule. Okay, so firewall rules are very important, right? So, and I have one set up in here, and it's called a country block. And the reason why I set up a rule for countries is because Rhino Cybersecurity does not do business with places like Australia or India or Russia or China. So why do we let people from those parts of the world go into the site? We don't want to, right? So Oscar Garrido says, "Happy Canada Day, Andrew." So Andrew, if you're there, Oscar is saying Happy Canada Day, and Elizabeth says Happy Canada Day for everybody. All right. And Elizabeth says Cloudflare is a fire in the sky. Cloudflare, I guess, yes. All right, perfect. So if I click on the on this rule, right? So click on here. We're blocking China, India, Turkey, Russian Federation, Brazil, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Algeria, and a whole. You can set up these rules very easily, right? So you can just click on create a new rule here. So where is it? The last one. Yeah. So or right, and then type in country equals to, and then I can choose Angola. And then I can click on save, right? So that is basically blocking people from those parts of the world entering the site. I know it sounds mean, but you know, a lot of the attacks happen from Turkey and Egypt and in Australia and in India and Russia and United Kingdom and Germany and all of those places. They're attacking North America. So if you don't do business with those countries, why have people access from those countries, right? So you want to make sure that you have that. Then you have rate limiting. Now, rate limiting is a paid service. So this is for DDoS. So if somebody, you know, let's say from another country is trying to take down your website or your servers, and they're attacking you like constantly, you want to limit the rate, and then you have to pay for this. So this is like 5 cents per 10,000 legitimate non-block requests, right? So it's not very expensive. You can set that up. You have managed rules too. And this is really important. This is only with the pro version. So pay $20 per month on Cloudflare, and then you get access to this, right? So managed rules are for a whole bunch of things. So for example, if you have Drupal, Cloudflare Drupal, you see here, right? You can set this on, right? If you have things like, let's say Joomla, so these are all CMS. If you have Magento, if you have WHMCS or WHM, in our case, you know, WordPress, so this one is on. And there is like, man, 474 rules that you can go through and set them up as enable or disable. And not only that, but then there's also the OWASP mod security rule set that you can set up. So the OWASP, the top 10 vulnerabilities from OWASP, right? You can set them up in here. And as you can see, bad bots, common exceptions, generic attacks, HTTP policies, protocol anomalies, violations. You can set all these up. Joomla, PHPBB, right? So, and there's 20 of them. You can set this up. Absolutely recommend this, right? Because it's going to stop a lot of the attacks. Oh my God, it's already 12:38, so I have to move on because there's so much to cover in here. Okay, in terms of the let's say the tools, these are tools for access. So, for example, if you want a website, or let's say certain part of your website, let's your administrator to be only accessed by one IP address or by a block, for example, from like your office and stuff like that, you can set this up so only those people can access those resources, right? So that's really, really, really good and convenient for you, right? And I already talked about this. Let's talk about DDoS. You want to have also DDoS attack protection, right? So you can click here and configure your DDoS, right? So in this case, it is a default, right? But you can actually set up legacy CAPTCHA for DDoS. So if people are trying to attack, then they're going to be prompted by a landing page where they have to click on the CAPTCHA. So it covers a lot of the robots that want to do some harm, right? So you can also create blocking agents and stuff like that, and then rules for lockdown, right? So those are all the kind of like the web application firewall or WAF settings. And here, this is really common, right? So the security level of your website. Some websites are prone to attacks. Okay, so for example, medical field, financial, like manufacturing nowadays is prone to a lot of attacks. this is where you can set up the security level. In our case, I have it at medium, right? But you can put it at high, right? So it's going to do a lot of more challenges for people trying to access that if the browser is not good or anything like that. In this case, I have it at medium, so that's a really good rule to have. And then challenges. So there's two things: blocks and challenges. Blocks are completely blocks a bot or like a bad entity from accessing your site, stops it. A challenge is basically, well, I'm going to present a captcha for you, and you have to click on to make sure that you're a human to get into the site. And then the challenge passage here, for example, is 30 minutes. So if you're not able to access the captcha or click on the captcha, the site is going to wait for 30 minutes until you are able to go again and present the challenge, right? You check on integrity check and privacy pass support. All of these are pretty good for blocking further threats. And let's see what else am I missing here. So manage rules, DDoS. Any comments? Any questions? So we have a question. How effective is country blocking when they can use the servers of the country to attack? Yes. That's a very good question, because let's say you're in China or anywhere, you can use a VPN. A lot of people say, hey, Dan, why are you using this if there's a VPN? So every time that there's a request from another country into your server, there is a load, right? And the more load that you have, the more performance issues that you can have, the more expense that you're going to have to incur, because there's a lot of bad stuff or bad bots going into your site. So in a lot of the attacks that happen are not humans, they're bots, right? And the bots might not use the VPN. It might go directly from the source or use VPNs in other countries. So even though you're saying how effective is it? Well, is it not effective? It's effective. It's not, I'll put it this way, it's not surefire, right? It's not something 100% sure, because you can use a VPN if you're a really malicious actor. But by enabling country block, you're like affecting, or you're blocking a whole whack of bad bots that will try to access your site anyways, right? So that's what you have to remember. When you get scans from other countries, it's not humans that are doing it. It's never humans. It's actually bots, right? And if the bot finds something vulnerable, something bad, then that's when a human gets put in to do further damage, right? So good comment, good question, Changiz. I really appreciate that. Tamara says, wow, pretty nifty. Yes, this is awesome. Okay, perfect. So let's get into the other stuff. Let's see. Let's get into the caching side of things. So there's the access, right? So the speed just shows you how fast your site is, because this is CDN. It catches a lot of the data from your website into the server. So the delivery is much faster. Like if you go to for example, the Rhino website, it's it's super fast, as if it wasn't part of the CDN, right? So optimization. So you can have things like image resizing. If your images on your website are too big, it's going to resize the images. These are all non-security related. These are more like optimization related, right? So you can have things like, for example, lossless in here for the delivery of images. You can minify, like JavaScript, CSS, HTML. You can use Brody for mobile devices and so on. So you can. I'm just going to go very quickly because there's a lot of information in here, and this is more related to optimization, not really the what we want, which is the security, right? So let me see if I can get into something super important, which is the let's see. Security, we got that covered. The limiting, manage rules. Yeah, we got that covered as well. The tools, settings. Okay, settings is covered too. I wanted to let's see. I'm not sure where I can find that information now, but there's something that I wanted to talk about, which is the maybe it's the rules. Yeah, so let's talk about the rules. The rules are super important. So, for example, if you want to, this is a wildcard, right? So, if you want to set up rules for if somebody goes into this website, for example, support.rhino.io, they line into our PSA system, right? So things like that, you can set up rules like that, and then rules for, going into the admin and stuff like that, right? And then you can use also, where is it? Bear with me. Right here, for example, the normalization types, right? So in incoming URLs and things like that, right? There's also a place on Cloudflare, and I'm not sure where it is right now, but you can actually set up the TLS version. So you want to make sure that you are using TLS 1.2 and higher. So 1.2, 1.3, do not use TLS 1.0 or 1.1 because it's not secure, right? Same with SSL. There's a place in here where I can't find it right now, but that's okay. I'm not worried about that. Geez, where is it? Okay, never mind. So we'll skip that, but there's a place in there, and make sure that you have it because hackers are pretty smart. They want to downgrade your SSL, right? So if you are using SSL 1.3 and your website or your security certificate is allowing 1.1 TLS 1.1 or 1.0, then the hacker is going to be able to downgrade and then have you carry out a man in the middle attack, for example, and decrypt your information, right? So that's super important, right? Any questions, anything out there? Not so far. Okay, perfect. All right, so let's get into, so that's Cloudflare. Let's move on to the hosting part, right? Wow, not much time in here. Okay, perfect. This is the hosting, right? So this is my cPanel. The first thing that you want to do with the cPanel, it's setting up permissions, right? So when you get into your file system, you have to make sure that every single document is set up at 644, and then the directors are 755, right? And you can do that for all of them recursively, right? So for example, if I click in here and then click on change permissions, you'll see that this is 755, which means that the user has access to read, write, and execute. The group only has access to read and execute, and the world only has access to read and execute. This is for folders, right? You want that set up in there. For files, so let's say this guy here, change permissions. You don't want the world to execute a file, right? Because that would be very, very bad, right? So you don't want anybody to execute a file in the world, not even the user, right? Only the admin, only the root should be able to execute a file inside of your server. Same with group and same with world, right? So 644, that's why 644 is so important, right? So make sure you set that up properly. Then what I would say is be very careful with things like Git, right? So if you have your Git in here, your .git, make sure, I usually set them up at 444, right? So I'm a little more stringent when it comes to things that are, like hidden files in there. So 444 is basically just read for user, group, and world, not execute or not write, right? So I want to make sure that I set up. Same with your htaccess, right? I do the same thing. I put it at 444. Make sure that it works with your website. Sometimes it cracks the website, it breaks the website. So make sure you are able to do that. Inside of your htaccess, this is cPanel using Apache, right? So Nginx is a little different, but you want to make sure that if I open this is my htaccess that I'm using, PHP 7.4, which is the latest PHP, or 8 or 8.1. Don't use PHP 7.3 or 7.2 or older ones because they are vulnerables. So make sure that you use the latest PHP. You can also set up your rewrite rules in here, right? So if I go into type in here, for example, this, the server now is like whoever comes with into HTTP, it automatically converts that request to HTTPS. So just like that's a second layer of security in there if you want to have it, right? So in there as well. The other thing is like you want to make sure that your, let's say your PHP. This on this very quickly. So this is your configure PHP any basic settings, right? So in here, two things. The first one is display errors. You don't want display errors. So make sure that at all times this is turned off. So it's disabled, right? And the second thing is the allow URL fopen. Make sure that is disabled as well. You have those two disabled and all of these like enable DL, for example, those three, and then you're set. You're good to go. In here, you can actually set up the maximum file size, the maximum post per pages, and things like that. You can mess around with these depending on the load that you're putting on your website, right? So those are the things from cPanel. Is there any questions out there? If you're out there and if you have any questions, just let me know, and I'll be able to cover them. Right? I think I've covered most of the stuff. I still have a lot to go. And we only have 10 minutes, but let's see what we can get done in 1 hour. So let's talk about the website security. Okay, so I'm going to talk about WordPress. This is a plugin that is very good and has actually helped a lot of our clients. Okay, it's called iThemes. And it's not very expensive. It's only $80, right? So you can see the basic is for one website, and it's only $80, right? So what it does is, if I go into the admin of the website, it creates a two-factor authentication. So I'm going to log into this and I'll show you what I mean. Yeah, so I try to log in, right? And it didn't allow me. I have to enter my username and password. And when I do that, then it's going to ask me for my authentication code, right? So, and then I have to find that on either my phone, right? So I got to go into my phone and put my authentication code. So I'm going to do that right now. So let me see. You can't see this, but I'm doing it from my browser. So give me 1 second. There you go. I'm going to paste it in here. And there you go. So I have access now. And if I go to security, so this is from the website side. It's very, very important. Look at this. Look how many lockouts. So 22 lockouts in total, right? So people that have been trying to access this site in a bad way, they have been locked out. Or for example, brute force attacks and things like that. 169 people that are banned. So you have your security on Cloudflare, you have your security in your hosting, but this is a website security side, right? So because like even though Cloudflare is really good, it's not 100% good, right? There's always flaws. So you want to have another layer of security on your website as well. So this actually, whoever bypasses Cloudflare, it's going to be able to get caught on the website stuff. And you can see, for example, the status of site scans. You can see IPs that have been blocked, right? All of these IPs have been blocked from entering the website itself. And it's a lot of them, you can see. And if you go to settings, you can set up your two-factor authentication. You can set up your password, last logins, your trusted devices. Trusted devices is really good for your admin. So for example, you don't want people to have access to your admin page, not even your login and password and stuff like that. You can set up trusted devices, a trusted device. So for example, your computer, only your computer and your phone can access the admin site and nothing else, right? Things like that. If I go to tools here, let me see, no, advanced actually. file systems, like protect your file system, protect or disable directory browsing, for example, for directory browsing attacks or traversal attacks, they're called. And then PHP uploads. So you don't want people, nobody should have or should be able to upload a PHP file into a website, obviously. So disable PHP uploads, and then WordPress tweaks, like, for example, XML RPC. You want to disable that if you're not using this type of stuff, right? So for API and stuff like that, right? So there's a lot of things that you can do. Hide the backend, right? So, for example, you can create. I'm going to change this after, by the way. You can create a different backend. So if your WordPress is WP admin to get into the backend, you can create, let's say, WordPress / 12345 admin, blah blah blah, and a long name. So you're hiding the backend for the WordPress. There's a lot of stuff that there's not enough time to cover this, but there's a lot of stuff that you can do from your WordPress site. Okay. Any questions in there? No, we don't have any questions. So the other thing is, let's talk about the backups. Okay, so you can use an external source. So, for example, like Secure, to do your backups. Why? Because you don't want to do backups on your own site, right? On your own server. Because if your server goes down, then you won't be able to retrieve those backups. So even though cPanel and the other servers do have a way to create automatic backups of your website every 6 hours or every day, you don't want to have that enabled. And because you want to have the backups offsite in some other source. Make sure you do that. In this case, we use Secure. Secure is one of our partners. So if you want backup, make sure you reach us at rhino.io, and we'll be able to help you with the backups. And you can see, for example, here, this is one website that has a backup system, and you can see that June 30 backup completed, and it goes on and on and on, all of these days for months and months and months, right? So these backup, there's one that's failed, but then automatically what we do is when we catch backups that are failed, we manually do the backups right away in our company. That's how we deal with things. You can set up the notifications, what time you want the backup done at, the frequency, if you want it every day. We usually put it for every day, not every 2 days. And then there's the settings where you can set up the configs for the backups, right? And then, so that's for backups. Make sure that you do have your backup set up. The other thing that I want to show you is this guy here. And this is the security monitoring. Security monitoring is really, really, really good and effective. So in this case, for example, we also use Secure for doing monitoring every day. So it does monitor the website 24/7, and it does a scan every 6 hours. So you can set it up for every 6 hours or every 12 hours. You usually do every 6 hours. It scans your entire website. If it finds vulnerabilities or spam or injected spam or malware, it will alert you, and then you can actually go in here and request a cleanup, which is perfect. You can also force a scan, and you can see here, for example, this website has not been blacklisted, and it is free of. You can make sure that it's free of viruses and things like that, right? And then you can see also the uptime, right? So, for example, here you can see June, May, April, 100% uptime. So this website has not failed for the last 3 months, right? And not just for the last 3 months, because if I click here, let's see if I go more results, maybe. Check this out. Our uptime for this website, and this is how it is for most of our websites, is 2 years and 31 days. So it has not failed in 2 years, almost 3 years, right? And some of our clients that we have, our big clients, it has never failed. Like for 4 or 5 years, they're still working, not a single failure on the server. So we're very, very proud of that. As I said, Rhino Cybersecurity, we have some really good packages for hosting in there, right? So that's in terms of the security, and make sure that you have some sort of security monitoring and security and backups. The last thing that I want to cover is the headers, and I'm going to go over for a couple of minutes, and that's okay. It's all good, but I want to talk about this. Let me see where it is. Yeah, here. So this is Mozilla or Observatory, and what it does is basically it checks the website for possible vulnerabilities and problems that you can fix. So if I enter my domain danduran.ca and I click on to include in public results and force a scan, let's see how it's doing. So I'm going to click scan me, and you'll see that I already have scanned it because it does take about 5 minutes to produce this results. You'll see, for example, things like how is your SSL certificate doing with SSL Labs, right? So SSL Labs says I pass with A, right? So you can see my grade is A. It could be A+, so I could do a little better, but it's doing pretty good, right? So, and then Immune Web, it shows you if you're compliant for PCI DSS, for HIPAA compliant and stuff like that. Obviously, for HIPAA compliance, you're going to have a different type of server. It also does things like your security headers. So, for example, right here, my security headers, they're not doing very well. I got a D. So this is because the hosting that I'm using for my personal website is not it's not I can't fix anything on the back end, but it's okay. But you should have things like your content security policies enabled, same with the X frames and refer policies and permissions policy. Permissions policy is the last one that just came out not too long ago. There's work to be done in there, of course. And the other thing it does is go back here, the preloader. Here's the htaccess, right? So if I click on it, you'll see that it is loaded properly. And the first one is the right here. It's basically the where is it? This one, TLS. So to see how your crypto is doing in terms of your security certificates, right? So it shows you all the cyber suites, right? And for example, 1.2 TLS 1.2, all the cyber suites, and it's showing me that these are enabled and shouldn't be because they're not they're weak, right? And then you can see that TLS 1.1 is disabled, which is good, and TLS version 1 is also disabled. Yeah. So all right. So I hope you had fun. Oh, whew, that was long, man. That was long. I try to make it as quick as possible, but I can talk and go through. I mean, it will take you days to do all of this stuff. I mean, 2 or 3 days, right? So, but the main thing is like if you need experts, if you need somebody to help you with setting up your hosting, with your security and all of that, don't hesitate to reach out. Rhino Cybersecurity, we're there. That's what we do every day. Eduardo, he's coming in late. He says, Happy Canada Day. Happy Canada Day to you too, Eduardo. And guys, have a fantastic long weekend, Canada weekend, and I hope to see you. Andrew Somerton is going to be back on the show next Friday. If you have any questions in terms of cybersecurity, let us know, and I hope to see you next week. Cheers. Have a good one, guys.